Hello folks, welcome to Outdoors with Bud. I'm your host, Bud Fields. What I'm wanting to do today, I've always said, if you got any questions that you'd like to ask me, to send me an email or call me on my cell phone or contact Kokomo Lantern and give them the questions, and they will see to it that I get it. And I've got a number of questions here. I've got a couple names and I got some initials, but what I wanted to do was actually show you people that when you do send these questions to me, I do get them, I do read them, and I like to respond to them. And because it's all for people like you that this program is possible. I told the guys at the Kokomo Lantern when they asked me if I would be interested in writing for them and then doing the podcast, that I love giving out information. Now, the answers are mine and not that of the staff and management. This is stuff that's worked for me, and I figure if it works for me, it can work for anybody. So I'll go ahead and get into this. This first question is from TJ. It says, what is more important, lure color or presentation? Well, I think I might have discussed this a little bit in a previous podcast about lures and stuff. You could probably take 10 professional anglers and set them right here on the couch and ask each one of them that question, and you might get 10 different answers. But in my opinion, and most of the guys that I've talked to would agree, I think presentation is much more important. A lot of times, due to the thermocline, due to the refraction, and due to the water clarity, a lure that you're holding in your hand may look like it's yellow. When you throw it out there in the water, as it gets down into deeper water and the water clarity changes, believe it or not, the color of that lure changes. So a lot of times, the lure color is not too important, but the presentation is. I would rather, if I'm casting at a stump, if I think a bass is hiding at that stump, I want to get it to where that fish is not going to have to exert a lot of effort to come and hit that. But once again, in my opinion, presentation is much more important than the lure color. Now, sometimes they can see certain colors a little easier. And you say, well, they got to see it to hit it. That's right. But when the water conditions is not so good, they don't want to exert a lot of efforts to go out and hit that lure. Okay, question number 2. This is from Adam 34. That sounds like a police car or something. But anyway, it says, do you need a boat to catch fish? Well, I just looked around the room and my wife has not said any in here, so I'm going to tell you the truth. No, you do not need. I caught a lot of fish sitting on the bank fishing around farm ponds, around creeks, even in some of the rivers. The advantage of having a boat is being able to be where you can go from plant A to plant B to point C in a hurry. Rather than walking around it or trying to run around it, you can fire up that outboard or grab a trolling motor and you can go from here to there and not exert a lot of effort. And because sometimes, depending on the water, depending on the air temperature and by the sunlight, that determines a lot of places where that fish is going to be. So really, no, you don't. It's much more fun. I always told everybody that I could be sitting on a bank or I could be sitting in a little wooden john boat and I could be catching fish left and right and nobody notices. But if I got a real beautiful metal flake bass boat, I can be sitting out there fishing and not catching anything, but man, I look good. I'm styling. But the thing about it, you get a boat, there's a lot of maintenance to it, and there's always something going wrong. So you got to be prepared. If you're going to play, you're going to pay. But no, you don't necessarily need a boat. But most of the people prefer to fish out of a boat because they want to be able to get around. Okay, Leslie wants to know, what do you recommend, live bait or artificial? Well, there again, I think I covered this briefly in some of the other podcasts and some of my articles. A lot of it depends. Let's say you got a child that you're wanting to get fishing, get them started fishing. That kid don't care how many fish they catch or how big it is. They just want to catch fish. Now, you can take live bait, such as a redworm, a nightcrawler, a bee moth, a cricket, and go to basically any body of water, like a farm pond. You can put any of that live bait on there, throw that out there, you're going to catch fish. And a lot of these little panfish like bluegill and sunfish and crappie, they're very gregarious. That means they like to be in droves and numbers. They feel safer traveling in numbers. And if you catch a fish, bait that hook, put it right back out there in that same place, and there's a good possibility you're going to catch several fish because they're going to be all hoarded up right there. Now, artificial, if you're a tournament angler like fishing for bass, you're required to use artificial bait. But there are some times that the fish does not want to hit an artificial lure, that they will hit live bait. But according to rules and regulations, if you are fishing in a bass tournament, you're going to be using something made out of plastic, made out of wood, and you got to make that look like it's like a Big Mac from McDonald's, and the fish wants to eat it. So it takes a little bit of skill and dexterity to use artificial. Okay, I got another one here that says, do you eat fish? Boy, I sure do. Now, I don't eat very many bass because most of the bass tournaments that I participated in, it's all catch and release. We catch the fish, we take them in. They have to be a minimum of like 14, maybe 15 inches long. They weigh them, they put them all together. You got a 5 bass limit. The total weight wins the tournament. And most of the time we take them back and we release them back into the water. And if you ever watch some of the podcasts where we're at the farm ponds, you're going to see me catch bass. I'm going to release them. Why am I doing that? Well, maybe one of those little kids around the neighborhood that lives there might catch that same fish the very next day and have that exact same fun that I had when I caught that fish. And the kids, like I say, they don't care if they catch big fish or little fish. But yes, I do love fish. Probably one of my favorite freshwater fish is, I like to eat walleye. Whitefish is fantastic. Crappie is good. Bluegill is good. Yeah, I really enjoy going to fish fries. So yes, I do eat fish. Okay, this person just signed their name X. They wanted to know, what is my favorite fish to catch? Well, one time I done a lot of pan fishing. I used to fish a lot for crappie. I fished a lot for bluegill and had a lot of fun because they were willing to hit just about any time I wanted to go fishing. Then my neighbor got me fishing in a bass tournament with him. The first tournament he and I fished as a team, we won. And then that kind of got my juices going. The next thing you know, I sold my little John boat and I mortgaged the farm, so to speak, and I bought a bass boat. And that pretty much took care of a lot of my fishing. I got to be more of a competitor. Okay, now here's a very good question. David wanted to know, do you fish in the rain? Yes, I do. I don't normally enjoy it near as much. If it's pouring down rain and thunder and lightning, no, I will not go. The rain don't bother me as much. The thunder don't bother me enough. But when that's lightning out there, that can be hazardous and can be deadly. Lightning will strike the tallest thing on the water, basically. And that's like I always kidded a lot of people. If I was fishing in a storm, I wanted somebody taller than me. But there's no fish out there in any body of water that's worth risking your life or your partner's life. But fishing in the rain, you can dress, you can take your rain gear with you. I do pretty well. I've been, Frog Togs has been one of my fishing sponsors for many years. Mike Wilson Enterprises out of McCordsville, Indiana. I always have rain gear in the boat. If I'm out there and it starts raining, I can put my rain gear on, and for the most part, I'm going to stay perfectly dry. So the rain doesn't bother me. The wind can affect the fishing. It makes boat control a little more difficult. Some bodies of water you may be able to get on one side of the lake or back in the channel to get out of the wind, so the wind's not too much of a problem. A lot of guys prefer it. They want to go to the windy side of the lake because that's where a lot of the fish will be, and they will be facing into the wind because the wind and the waves is going to be washing up a lot of stuff for them to eat, algae and everything. So yeah, I do fish in the rain. It's not all that big of an issue, but if it's lightning, So you might want to pay attention to your weather band on your radio. Check the forecast before you go. Okay, Jeremy wants to know, what is the best bass boat made? Now that's a loaded question. There's several different boats made on the market that's very reputable. Just to name a few, and I'm not endorsing any of them. Ranger is a good boat. Nitro is a good boat. Stratus, Javelin, and some of the newer ones, I think it's Vexus, I think is the name of it. Champion made good boats. But it all depends on, even if you don't buy a brand new one, if you buy a used one, normally if you buy it off of somebody that was a tournament angler, that boat's going to be pretty well taken care of, because it takes a lot of money to keep a boat in good operating order, and usually the guy don't want something major to happen, so he's going to keep his boat maintained properly. And you can get by buying a good used boat, because anymore, I mean, it's not unusual to get a boat over $60,000-$70,000, and I have seen some of them here lately that were limited edition, and they are well over $100,000. And if you want to lose a bunch of attaboys with your wife, come home from a boat show pulling a bass boat. I told my wife that one year, just like a little kid that found the dog, look what followed me home, can I keep it? It's a major investment, but boy, it's a lot of fun. Okay, now here, Ben B is the gentleman's name. He said, have you ever been skunked and blanked in a tournament? Yes, I most certainly have. Not very many times, but there has been times I've gone out there, and apparently the fish has not watched my podcast or read my articles. They did not know that they were supposed to hit everything that I was throwing at them. But it's still a lot of fun. But the thing about it is, my old saying is, you're a part-time fisherman trying to catch a full-time fish. There's going to be times that you might go out and catch a bunch of fish, a bunch of big ones. You may go back the next day, maybe the weather's changed, maybe a cold front come in, or boating pressure. That's going to affect the fish activity. You might not catch a fish that next day. But always go to make memories and take a friend or family member with you, and you're going to be making memories that last you a lifetime. Okay, this guy calls himself Bluegill Paul. Okay, Bluegill Paul wants to know, does your family fish, hunt, and camp? Most certainly. Now, my wife, for instance, she loves to camp, she loves to fish. She's not so much on hunting, but she lets me do it, and I can't ask for any more. As far as our kids go, my daughter was a very good fisherman, a angler, I'll say. Be politically correct. She loved to fish. I used to take her out when she was just barely old enough to sit on a boat cushion, and she can fish with a lot of the guys and do well. Matter of fact, she's married now. She's got her own family with grandkids. Every one of her kids enjoyed fishing too. I wonder where they got that. My son, he loved to camp, fish, and hunt. He lives in Utah, and he's always asking me to come out there and go elk hunting with him. I told him, I said, I'd like for him to marry that lady 40 years ago. I could have climbed them mountains, and it makes it hard now. But yes, my family really enjoys being anglers, and they all pretty much like to camp, and the boy, he likes to hunt. Okay, Outback 55 wants to know, when's the best time to go fishing? Well, there's certain times that may be a little bit better. Early morning, late afternoon, when the fish are feeding. They're doing pretty good, and the best time to go fishing is whenever you can. They've got cylinder tables that's going to tell you when they think it's going to be the best time to go fishing and hunting. But a lot of times that might not work with your schedule. So the best time to go fishing is any time that you want to and that you can. What would you change in your life? From John. Well, I wouldn't mind being a little bit taller. I wouldn't mind having my parents. As far as family life, golly, I got a great wife. I got a great family with me, and I wouldn't change a thing about that. So, other than being maybe a little healthier, maybe being a little younger, which is impossible, that would be the only thing that I would change. So I hope I've answered your questions. And once again, please keep them coming because we've got more episodes to come. And as long as I'm getting these questions, I know I'm getting your interest and you're interested in learning. And like I say, what I'm telling you might not be the only way to do things, but it's something that's worked for me, and I think it can work for you. So with that, we're gonna close and look forward to more episodes with Outdoors with Bud. And I want to thank you for tuning in, and God bless you.